Here's what I noticed, Justin. As she's doing her play, every couple of words, she would check in with me with her eyes to see if I was still listening. She'd talk a little bit more, checking in. And I know the reason she's doing that is because she knows that I might be drifting off or not paying attention. And I worry all the time that like deep down, she's not getting the attention that she needs. And that's my fault. It's because daddy's been distracted. Our kids tell us in these subtle ways. And if you're not paying attention, you are just massively missing that opportunity to connect. This week, the parenting episode. We're going to talk about how the relentless desire to be a perfect parent as opposed to a present parent is actually robbing us of the joy of parenthood and harming the connection we so desperately want with our children. If you're a parent, this one's for you. Let's go deep. As I mentioned in the intro, we're going to talk about parenting, and I'm sitting here with the certified official New Jersey State Parent of the Year, Justin Mazars. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you got that picture of the plaque I sent. I didn't think you were going to notice.
Yeah, of course, that award was given by me in my mind before this episode.
Unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about parenting, man. And you know what I was thinking about this is it's so obvious that it's silly to say, but like everybody has a parent or is one, right? Like we all, even if your parent is absent in your life, the absence itself impacted you. And then if you're like me and you, where you're actively parenting, I mean, man, it's the most significant role that you take on in your life. So, you know, connecting and talking about parenting and the key kind of point that I think should be underlying this whole episode is this. It's like parenting itself and our intentions to be perfect parents can prevent us from being the parents that our kids need, right? Like Justin, I heard last week, 2 weeks ago on the episode, you mentioned the word idol, right? Like you said, anything can become an idol.
Yeah.
And it's my position that even parenting can become your idol if you grip so hard to it to be perfect. And in that pursuit of perfection, you stress out and burn out on it. And then you're giving out of love or the hope to be the perfect parent that gives love to your kids. They're missing the love that you need because you're burning out.
100%. I mean, and it's so prevalent. I feel like you go on social media for 5 minutes, all you're seeing is the highlight reel of parents of the year taking their kids to every known trip possible and showering them with gifts and all this stuff. When 5 minutes later, mom and dad were in the background talking about a divorce, all the other kids crying. Like, you don't see any of that stuff.
Right.
All you see is that. So you got on, you're like, well, fuck. You're going all these places, kids get in the car, and then it's just like, we're going. And then the whole time you're going, it's just like, I'm going so I can post this and show everybody how good of a mom and dad I really am.
Right.
So the kids are in the back crying because you're so stressed out. Can you not see that?
Right.
I feel like I'm kind of talking to myself right now as well. So.
Let it out. Let it out. I'm sure somebody's connecting with it. I am too, by the way. The highlight reel, right? No one sees the chaos and all of the stuff in between. Yeah. You just see, but I every parent is dealing with it. And think about like just the average human, the amount of pressures that these days in 2025, the amount of pressures that the average human being is under, right? You have financial pressure. You have lack of margin because you have too much activities. You have ambiguity or uncertainty around like your future and your job and sometimes your relationship. So you have all of these things that are competing for your headspace that are kind of eroding your presence and your mental health. But then when you're on top of that, when you have this, and it's like me, when I have this constant chronic worry that I'm not giving enough to my kids and I'm not doing enough and showing up for them, again, while it's well intended, that itself feels and manifests as a weight that kind of brings me down. And what we're going to go into a little bit is how like parenting itself can be the cause of stress and pressure that actually erodes your mental health and sometimes has you turn towards addiction and addictive substances to just cope. And what we're hoping to do in this episode, and we're going to go into some statistics, is we're going to talk about like what is a healthy mindset or what is a healthy perspective that you can bring day in and day out that will allow you to, yes, help them with education, yes, discipline well, all those things. But most importantly, and this is the key word, is presence.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
what kids need, presence. And there's some clips that we're going to dive into. But just to start with a couple stats that I thought were revealing to kind of bring this home. This first one is it's from Pew Research from 2023. 73% of parents say that parenting today is harder than it was for their own parents. How would they know that? That's an interesting one.
That
They'd have
is
to survey
interesting.
they'd have to survey their parents too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say different. Yes, 100% different. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, hard is so subjective. I feel like everyone's version of hard is different. But I mean, not having a parent with social media is a hell of a lot different than having a parent with it now.
Mhm.
So
True.
I can see the difference and struggle with that.
It is a tough one, but the only experience I can go from is my own being
Yeah, for
raised,
sure.
right? And I have to say, man, if I just like picture what my parents were like, or I might even say what was the energy in my
Yeah,
house, like coming off of them, there was stillness. Like it felt quiet. They weren't on their phones, first and
yeah,
foremost. There weren't cell
definitely.
phones. They weren't buried in that. But because connectivity was so much less because the
Yeah,
technology was so different, it did feel to me like they had more time. Like they just
yeah.
felt like present. Would you agree?
Well, I think it was easier for them to be present compared to the distractions that we have today. Obviously, everyone has their own struggles and everything, but from like a societal perspective, the technology and not having a phone glued to your hand or your pocket, and like looking back to my parents, like my parents were always present, and that's something that I strive to be, and I'm very blessed and fortunate that to still have that for my parents. And I actually have one of these realizations about that this past week. My latest thing has been fishing. I've been utterly obsessed with fishing. It's been a great stress relief. Trying to take care of me and my mental health. So I've been going fishing, and then started bringing the girls just to see, hey, maybe they'll be into it, maybe they'll like it. We'll be outside. We'll get to play at the animals of the lake. There's no electronics in sight. There's no screens, no nothing. But what
Mm.
there is are two very happy, smiling faces of kids, and the dad that's looking back, going, "This is why my dad always wanted to take me fishing." And it's
Yeah.
like, because this is what's important, man. It doesn't. I don't give a shit about the fish. All I care about is this presence, this stillness, this like soaking in of like, this is what it's about, man. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why, like, I'm all of these light bulbs have been going off in my head of like, yeah, the great Disney trips and all of these fun, fancy excursions and like whatever and vacations are fun. They're amazing, and there's a damn right, well time and place for all of them. But we don't need to wait for that, until we have those moments of connection and presence with the kids.
Yeah.
Like
The
this is,
stillness.
yeah.
Yeah.
And once you taste that, it's almost like chasing the next high, but you're chasing the stillness of what life can be like, and shutting
Yeah.
it all off, not with a substance, not with a drug, but with what is already provided by God, and like just enjoying it, man.
Yeah. The sweetness of life. And as I listen to that, what I think too, it's like, are your daughters enjoying fishing unto itself? Yes. Like it's
Yeah.
fun to cast and to wait, to get excited, to reel in, to look at it, to send it back. But you know what they're probably like most excited about is your own presence. Like you being
Yeah.
there without that phone and you being
It's
like
so
just
true.
spending time with daddy is probably what matters most,
Oh, 100%. And
you
just
know?
the amount of hugs that like I got throughout the next day, or the amount of like random "I love you, daddies," like, and that's
Yeah.
only because, and not obviously they love me and know everything, but like they're showing, that's how they know to show it, is I'm gonna give daddy a hug because I feel really close and I love him right now and I feel like he loves me. And all it took was being with them and getting down on their level, man.
Yeah. And what it took is intentionality and a realization from you that it was important. And
Yeah,
then
true.
let's face it, I know your life and I know most busy parents' lives. It's like there were probably other things that
Oh,
you
yeah.
could have done that would have been more quote unquote productive in a
Oh,
tangible
always.
way. But what's more productive than stacking those experiences as much as you can and having those connections with your kids? And yet
Nothing.
you have to feel like you have the permission to do
Yeah,
that.
you
And
do.
that's what you have to do. I think the word pace comes to my mind when I think about both my own childhood versus now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is because just by nature of me being a child and not understanding responsibility, but the pace of life back then, like in the 1990s, early 90s, even through like the mid 90s, it felt like the pace was just different. It feels like
Oh yeah.
today, especially with like working parents, but any parent, there's this, I feel like this is a term, and if not, we're going to coin it, but I feel like there's this like productivity culture
Yeah.
where it's like, how much can I accomplish? How efficient can I be? What can I do? How many sports, how many dance events, how many things can I like pack in? And you're creating experiences by doing those things, but you're robbing like the true experiences that matter. Like just like leaving your phone behind and walk into a lake and go fishing. It's so easy and simple,
That is, man.
you know?
And I feel like we don't understand and like realize until it's too late that, I mean, we know they're always watching, right? Like even when we don't want them to be, they're watching and they're picking up on things and they're taking in what they are thinking is to be true because of how mom and dad are doing it or what mom and dad are having them do. So instilling into them this culture of do, go, go, go. If you sit down, you're not doing something right. Like, then the kids are going to feel like, okay, well, this is what I have to make my kids do. So, like, the effects of parenting aren't just what we're immediately seeing. It's like we're literally shaping the minds and the lives of these creatures that we were blessed enough to bring into this world. And it's so much more of like the little moments that add up over time that leave more of a bigger impact, being present and the moments of stillness and being here mattering more than, how many likes am I going to get for posting the story of us at the beach the other day?
All right. But man, hey, on that note, I get so frustrated when I see other people missing a moment because they're trying to capture it on social media. And let's face it, whatever you post on social media today is forgotten about within like an hour,
If that,
right? And even if you're missing, I mean, I understand like get this picture because we want to hold on to it. But
yeah,
when like the desire to document every single moment in your life is just so prevalent that like you're just like constantly doing it and missing those moments, to me, it's just so counterintuitive and frustrating. Like just capture the moment in your mind, and that's beautiful enough. Look, 1 in 10 Americans today struggle with alcohol use disorder, and I was one of them. Did you know that there is a safe, science backed daily pill that you can take to drink less or even quit alcohol for good? It's called naltrexone, a doctor prescribed medication that you get online, and our sponsor, Or Health, is the nation's leading provider of naltrexone. To date, Or Health has helped over 35,000 people find freedom from alcohol, and I'm proudly one of them. To get started, text STRENGTH to 710-710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710-710 and get started on your journey to finally find freedom from alcohol. Another stat for you, 60% of parents surveyed in an Ohio State study from 2022 are burned out by parenting duties specifically, not general burnout, parenting duties specifically. And that kind of ties to this idea of perfection versus presence. There's a great book actually called Present Over Perfect, which I think really dives deep on this. But again, that idea that we need to be a perfect parent instead of just being present, I think is both a good mantra and a good thing to like ask yourself, like, am I so focused on that perfection that I'm missing out on the opportunity to be present and capture those sweet moments that you were just talking about?
absolutely, man. I mean, there's one thing that none of us will ever be, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news on this beautiful Friday afternoon. You can try as hard as you want to be perfect. You're never going to get there. But you know what you can be? Present. And it's a lot easier to do that than it is to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a British pediatrician and psychoanalyst. His name is Donald Winnicott. And he has this idea. It's we should all strive to be a quote good enough parent, right? It's obviously a step down from perfectionism, but
Yeah.
a good enough parent. And just a quote from some of his work, children don't need perfect parenting. They need, these are keywords, they need responsive, attuned parenting that allows for failure, flexibility, and repair.
Mm.
So, two keywords there. They need responsive and attuned. Let's combine them. What does it need to be responsive and attuned to our children? To be responsive, you have to be present
Oh,
and
yeah.
not just in the room. You have to be focused on the subtle nonverbal things. You have to be making eye contact when you talk. You have to truly be like there and reacting. And attuned is a deeper word in my take of it. Attuned, it's almost like you're deeply, deeply connected. And we all know what it feels like to have chemistry with a person and to feel as though you're having this conversation where you both are there and you know where it's going. But to be attuned to their needs, that like deep connection, that, and studies support this, like that is the single most important aspect of parenting is connection.
Oh,
And children, anyone that has one knows this, they are deceptively attuned to our attention and they are surprisingly aware of the lack thereof.
oh yes. There's a sticker that we have on a refrigerator. It says, "You're not listening to the little things when they're small. They're not going to tell you the big things when they're older."
That's good.
And that hit home a lot. And it hits home every day. Um, and one of the things that I struggle with is it's at bedtime every night. Not every night, but most nights are nights where we had a great day and like their minds are still going. We coined it pillow talk, where we're putting the girls to bed. We alternate every night. We get in bed, and their little brains just want to spill out everything that they're thinking. And like sometimes we have the best conversations. Like there's been nights where Addison and I will stay up for 45 minutes because I'm so into it, and like we're having great talks. But then there's other nights where I'm like, okay, fucking let's go to bed now. And so, but like trying to find the balance of like, I always want you to feel like you can tell me anything. I don't care
Yeah.
if it's girly stuff or if it's about life or whatever. But also like, you're gonna make tomorrow morning suck a lot more right now because you're staying up a lot later. So let's stop this talk and go to sleep and continue it in the morning.
And that's
Uh,
okay.
no, it's just like those little moments of like when you're probably it's so easy to just be like, oh my God, it's bedtime. Stop. We got to go to sleep. Like that's quality one-on-one time that you're getting that they probably were looking forward to telling you all day, and you're going to shut them down. So it's again a balancing act.
Yeah, we're gonna hear a clip in a moment here, not yet, from a Dr. Becky Kennedy from a wildly popular show called Good Inside. She's been on the Huberman Lab, and she actually
Mhm.
talks about, even though we're talking about presence, she also talks about the importance of boundaries
Yeah.
because we also need space and we also need partner time, spouse time, whatever it is, and that's
Yes.
you can't neglect that, and that's the dance. That's what you have to
Yeah, man.
kind of really figure out when you're trying to do this thing right, you know. So but just back real quickly, I mentioned nonverbal and just being attuned. I had one of those moments with my 5-year-old daughter that just punched me right in the friggin' chest because it was just an awakening that like, oh, man, I got to be more present. I notice, so my daughter has a super active imagination. And when she gets into like wanting to do a play for us or wanting to just like play with her dolls or something, I mean, buckle up because you got to have coffee and you got to be like dialed in, right? So the other day she had like 11 farm animals on little like popsicle sticks and she wanted to like walk me through like this play that she had. And I'm talking to her, I'm like, that's really sweet. But I'm like counting the amount of popsicles. I'm like, are
We're
we
only
gonna
on
go through?
four.
Are we going through each animal here? So anyway, as she's doing it, I'll get to the point. As she's doing her play, we're on like animal 3. Let's just call it a pig because there was a pig in there. How many farm animals are there?
Oh, it's lots of
And here's what I noticed, Justin, and I've trained her to do this in the worst possible way. As she's doing her play, every couple of words, she would check in with me with her eyes to see if I was still listening. Checking in, right? She'd talk a little bit more, checking in. And I know the reason she's doing that is because she knows that I might be drifting off or not paying attention. And I worry all the time that, like, deep, deep, deep down, she's not getting the attention that she needs. And that's my fault. I can't sit here and say that that's because my daughter just wants attention. I can't say that that's her disposition. What I can say with fairness and accuracy and vulnerability, it's because daddy's been distracted. And it's because I allow this MFing thing to be around me and I hear the notifications or I'm preoccupied with chores or something, right? So, our kids tell us in these subtle ways.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, you are just massively missing that opportunity to connect.
It's a realization that hurts in the moment, but is one that is a blessing to have because it's so easy to not even realize what you're doing, man. And like one of the things my amazing, beautiful wife said to me recently was picture your kids on their phones when they're teenagers as much as mom and dad are on their phones now. And that makes you want to throw it out the window and never look at it again.
All right, so let's talk perfectionism when we're trying to be perfect instead of present, right? Just another quick supporting stat around this: parents who report high perfectionism are statistically more likely to report depression, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion when you're burned out from parenting itself. Of course, with all the other pressures like layered on it, but words like irritability, disconnection, and a word that we talked about on a previous episode, Justin, I just want to park there for 1 second, is dysregulated.
Mm.
What does it mean to be dysregulated? I've also shared previous episode that I've finally, by the grace of God, I finally started going to therapy. Lord knows I've needed it for a while, but one of the words that my therapist has really zeroed in on because she's seeing it from me that I'm experiencing this is dysregulation. And I
Yeah.
gave her this synopsis, and I'm sure it's going to like raise the hair and anxiety. Any parent listening, but she's like, when do you feel the most dysregulated? And I said, I'll tell you when I'm standing in a room and I know I have to leave in 10 minutes to go to, let's just say, soccer practice. And at the same time, I'm thinking logistics. I'm thinking, what color jersey? Where are the cleats? Is the diaper bag packed? Et cetera, et cetera. What time? What field? What time? All that, right? And at the same time, my son is yelling the same word really loud over and over and over again.
Yeah.
My other child is having a fit because I told her that she can't wear shorts when it's 15 degrees out. And then my other one, the soccer player, is yelling, I don't want to go to soccer. And I'm standing there, and there's all these competing kind of like thoughts at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, layered over. I got to get the hell out the door because I'm also trying to teach my kids that punctuality and responsibility are important, right?
Very.
So think about that. I need to teach my son, stop repeating yourself and yelling, let's control your emotions. And how old is he? How do I do that? Is he too young for me to raise my voice? How do I do that, right? And then my other one is having a fit, and I'm in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, great, parenting moment. I need to like teach her about the appropriate way to be frustrated and how do we voice when we're frustrated. And then I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to go on a tear right now, Justin. I'm thinking in my head, how do I lower the temperature of my internal monologue so that my voice comes out in such a way that's not punitive and not aggressive to her, but I'm also hearing my son and I'm like watching my clock. And then my other kid, the lesson, because I put pressure on myself to have
Yeah.
like the perfect answers all the time. My other kid is you have a commitment to your team. You made that commitment. You understood it. You're old enough to get that. And you need to go to the game. And what comes out is, shut up, everyone, shut up. And you're going to get, no, I'm kidding. That doesn't come out. But my therapist asked me, she's like, what are you thinking in your mind at that time? And I said, you want to be
Everyone's
honest?
gonna die.
Yeah, you want to be honest with you, therapist who I won't name? I'm thinking, shut the fuck up, right? I have to be honest. Like that's like because I come from North Jersey, people curse. But in my head, I'm thinking like, shut up, everybody, shut up. But like, I'm trying to turn that down so that like what they feel is, and what I turn into is just a zombie. I
It's
just
better than
start
the latter.
yeah, I just start picking humans up and bringing them to the car. But the point is, man, like in that
Yeah.
moment, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I've got nothing left to give. I'm overwhelmed. And what I am, and this is the key word, I'm dysregulated.
Yeah.
Sounds, time pressure, tasks, things. And I'm completely dysregulated.
Yeah, man.
Look, life can be hard and stressful sometimes. We all know that. But when it comes to supplements, why is it that nobody talks about stress and resilience? For me, I take the adaptogen stack from Momentous Supplements. It's a daily blend of ashwagandha, rhodiola, and L-theanine, all clinically backed to help you stay calm, focused, and resilient. I'm proudly partnered with Momentous Supplements because they are the industry's best. They don't cut corners. Everything's third party tested, used by pro athletes, and high quality. Head to livemomentous.com and use code STRENGTH for 35% off your first order. Again, that's livemomentous.com, code word STRENGTH for 35% off your first order, and get started today. If you don't mind, I'm going to run a clip right now. This is Dr. Becky Kennedy, and she talks exactly about what we should do in those moments. So here's Dr. Becky Kennedy.
Producing. Maybe you're about to, I don't know, do something at work, or maybe you're trying to sit through your kid's tantrum, or your kid's trying to separate from you. All of those moments to me, they feel like a tornado that just keeps getting bigger. What a mantra is it simple, repeatable words you say over and over and over. And if you think about what it does for you, instead of the swirl and the expansion, it gives you something to actually feel kind of in control over and very focused in the moment. I'm safe. This is not an emergency. I can cope with this. That is also a good mantra when you're arguing with your partner, when your boss seems mad at you, any of it. Because what you're really doing for your body is instead of kind of taking in and absorbing someone else's swirl of dysregulation, you're actually reminding your body that kind of your feet are on the ground and that you're safe and that you're actually capable.
What do you think, man? You think that'll work for you? A little mantra?
Dude, I was one of the things I was going to say. Well, Dr. Becky said it much better than I could have ever worded any kind of thought in my. There's the power of pausing and taking a breath in those moments. And do I do it all the time? No. Do I do it half the time? Probably not. But I need to do it a lot more because by just pausing and breathing and getting out of your head for a second and lets you realize, like, okay, nothing is on fire. Let's pause and figure this shit out. But again, in the moment, that is hard to do.
Yeah, well, that's much better advice because, like I said, what I do is I strap them in their car seats and buckle it so they can't squirm around and cause more trouble. And then I get in the car and then I address the parenting topics, if you will. But no, I think in all seriousness, I think you're spot on, man. You have to pull up and you have to take that deep breath. And, back to my wildly long anecdote, which was therapeutic for me. What is the underlying tension for me? I don't want to be late. And why don't I want to be late? Because it matters to me because I'm a perfectionist about being late. And that is driving the moment. And sometimes you got to hold on to those. But in other times, to quote my favorite character, Elsa of Arendelle, you got to let go. You just got to let go. You got to, you know what? Take the L and let go because you know what? We're not going to be on time this time. And when you just let it go, you can just ease into it. So let's close, Justin, with just talking about a little bit more about what kids actually need. And we talked about safety, attunement, repair, but how do we get there? And I'll start, and I'll do this little dance, but I think if I had to choose one step that is the most important in moving in a direction towards releasing perfectionism and embracing presence, right? Moving away from one and towards another, it has to be like self-work, whatever that looks like to you. But I think we should all, and we can all benefit from asking ourselves the questions. What is the underlying cause of the urgency, the frustration, the tension? And there's been a lot of great research and work around how our own disposition impacts our children, but more importantly, sometimes how our own children will expose and bring out or bring to the light some unresolved issues that we have, where if we resolve them, they'll allow us to be more healthy and more present. So just to add another clip really quick, this is from psychologist Dr. Shefali Tasaberi. She's known for her work on something called conscious parenting.
We don't hurt our children because we're evil or ill-intentioned, certainly not out of a lack of love. We hurt our children for one reason only. It's because we are hurting ourselves and we barely know it. It's because we are unconscious, because we have inherited legacies of emotional baggage from our own parents. We're sitting on emotional baggage that lies dormant, unconscious, waiting to be triggered at a moment's notice. And who better to trigger us than our children? They just know the buttons to push. Through our children, we get theater seats, orchestra seats to the theatrics of our emotional immaturity. When we lose our temper with our children and believe that they're devils and monsters, chances are it isn't because they're that, but because they've triggered an old wound within us.
What do you say to that?
Just like an emotional approach, an empathetic approach to parenting. And like, that's coming from a place of there's plenty of days where me, a 36-year-old man, has no idea what the hell is happening in my brain or how to communicate what is going on, and I'm not in a good spot. Our little humans experience the same exact thing, and they don't know how to do anything in terms of how to relate or show what they're feeling. So it comes out in tantrums or blah, blah, blah. But like, instead of meeting a tantrum out of nowhere with, what are you doing? Stop, go to your room, let's figure this out. Getting down on their level and really understanding, like, something happened. Like, what's wrong? Tell me why you're feeling this way. Or like, rather than just looking to fix it immediately, treat them as a human being and understand that they have feelings and emotions that, whether we want to admit it or not, are valid. They have big thoughts and big feelings, but it being more aware and approaching the situation outside of the realm of just, you're going to stop that now and you're going to do what I say, into let's unpack this a little bit, because there's clearly something going on that you're not knowing how to, show. Let's figure it out. But just meeting them where they're at has helped mom and dad, I feel like, approach some of the situations a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's an intentional mindset shift. I've been thinking about this, like what creates that baseline emergency for me? Yeah, I have so many regrets in my own life, missed potential, wrong decisions, etc. And because I have those regrets, I'm so fearful that they will make those same mistakes. And if on the surface that can be like kind of like good and a strong motivator, but when you allow that to turn into a worry and a concern, every little thing in the subtleties of day-to-day life, you're going to put all this intensity on it because you think it's building towards these humans that are going to make the same mistakes that you make. And full circle here, it's because of my own shame and regrets around decisions that I made that makes being a parent intense for me. And now those are the wounds that are kind of being pulled up. I just see myself in it. And just a couple other kind of practical things I'll say. We talked about addressing and doing the self-work is one. I would say another, and Justin, we talked about this earlier, but how about like do an audit of your activities and your life and clear out your damn schedule? Like just less is more when it comes to life. You don't need a Disney trip. You can just go fishing. Clear out your schedule and block that time with something that doesn't require agendas and planning. It's just being present. I think that's a really, really helpful one. And then as a third one, I would say if you're parenting with a spouse, just setting aside time intentionally and say, let's just pull up. Maybe once a month, let's pull up. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Right? Give me feedback. How do I feel when I walk into a room? What can I do differently as a dad or a mom? And even so, how can I be a better spouse so that we have more harmony, so we have a more healthy energy in this house? Just being intentional about getting feedback and focusing on it. It doesn't take a lot, but intentionality is all it takes to be present.
That's all it is, man. And that mindset the entire life can be different. Beautifully different.
Well, that's it for this week's episode, folks. I'm so grateful you joined us, and I'm so hopeful that you'll continue to join us on this next chapter of our show. If you haven't already, I'd be so grateful if you would follow our show, like our show, and even give us a review. That helps so much to help other people find our show so that they can learn how to live more free. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.